What are you doing in my swamp?
Hello everybody, this is Ogre Boy, and I'm going to be doing my MCU Updated Ranking. So, with WandaVision just finishing off today, I'm going to add it in with all the movies from the MCU and everything. There's 24 entries altogether and everything, so I thought I'd give you my updated ranking and everything with WandaVision. I'm going to do this with most of the shows. Now, if it becomes like a regular TV show, I don't know if I'm going to add them on there or not because of if they like have more than one season. But if it's like a limited series like what WandaVision is, then I'll add them on to my MCU ranking. There's 24 altogether, so I'm going to go ahead and get going. Coming in at number 24 is The Incredible Hulk. This movie just was really not that great. It's easily the worst movie in the MCU. Most people call it the black sheep of the MCU, and it's really understandable why. It just is not a very good movie. It doesn't really add much to the character stories. It's been pretty ignored by Marvel and stuff because it just isn't really that great. Edward Norton is really... I know some people really like him as Bruce Banner and stuff, but I thought he was really miscast. He's not a bad actor or anything, I just didn't like him in this movie. And part of it is it doesn't have any of that humor that you expect from the MCU. It doesn't have the lighthearted tone or anything like that that you would get from those movies, so it doesn't feel like an MCU movie, and it's not extremely great. The Incredible Hulk is number 24, and number 23 is Doctor Strange. This is one that I know a lot of people really love, and I've never really got it. I've tried watching this movie a couple times. I saw it in the theater, and then I watched it when I was preparing for Avengers End Game, and I had rewatched all the MCU movies up to that point. And both times I just can't get into this movie. I don't know why. I think it's really slow paced and everything, and it just isn't that entertaining to me. I will say that Benedict Cumberbatch, though, was really great as Doctor Strange. I think he's really good character, and I really enjoy him in the Avengers movies, but I just didn't enjoy his solo movie very much. I am really looking forward to the sequel, though, mainly because Sam Raimi's one of my favorite directors, and he's directing it, and Scarlet Witch is going to be in there and everything, so that kind of makes me more excited for it. Plus, exploring the multiverse and stuff is exciting and everything, so I do have a lot of hopes for the sequel and everything, and this movie could go up. I mean, there are other movies on this ranking that have gone up and stuff over time. As I've rewatched them and stuff, I start liking them a lot more, and this movie does have that potential. It's just not one of my most favorites, but it's definitely not a terrible movie. Really, the only one that I think is really bad is The Incredible Hulk. This one, I can handle watching it if I'm watching the MCU movies, but it's not going to ever be one that, if I just want to watch one MCU movie, this isn't going to be one of the ones I go to. So it's number 23, and number 22 is Captain Marvel. This is one that a lot of people absolutely hate and stuff because of Brie Larson, because the media and stuff made really big deal about something that she had said and took everything out of proportion and everything. So a lot of people hate her for personal stuff that she said that was taken out of proportion, but that's not really the reason this movie's so low. I like Brie Larson. She's actually a really great actress, one of the best actresses around nowadays, but she was very miscast in this movie. She's better for like indie movies and just smaller movies. She didn't really fit Captain Marvel, and part of it was also the way they wrote the character and stuff. They made her overpowerful and stuff, trying to pander to their agenda and stuff, and it just, some of it didn't work, but there are a lot of fun moments in this movie. This stuff with her and Nick Fury is a lot of fun, and we get introduced to some cool characters. The Skrulls are in here, and has a pretty good twist with them. I thought that was pretty cool, and I really like Monica Rambeau. She's a really cool character that we get to see more of in WandaVision and stuff, but we get to see her as a kid in this movie. So there are some things I like about it, and the 90s setting was pretty cool, and getting to see that Blockbuster store was really awesome, and it does have some good moments. It's just not one of my most favorites. It's definitely not as bad as most people say it is, though. I don't think it's a terrible movie or anything. It just isn't one of Marvel's best either. So it's number 22. And number 21 is Ant-Man and the Wasp. This one was really good, although I was really disappointed in it. I liked the first Ant-Man more than most people did. But this one, I think I had myself way too hyped for it and everything. And following Avengers Infinity War and stuff, I let myself get too hyped, expecting a lot more out of it, when I should have known that it was going to be a smaller scale movie since it was a sequel to Ant-Man. But it is a really good movie, and I need to rewatch it because I've only seen it once, or twice actually, because I saw it in theaters and then one other time on DVD. So I need to rewatch it, and this is kind of like with Doctor Strange. It does have potential to move up, but I don't see it moving up very high. And part of the reason it's so low is just because so many other movies are in the MCU, I think, are better than this. Really, pretty much starting with this one up, I think all of them are really great movies, and it's hard it's kind of hard fitting everything in to where they're supposed to be. So, Ant-Man and the Wasp is number 21, and number 20 is Ant-Man, the first one. I really like this movie quite a bit. It is actually one of the more underrated movies in the MCU because it's just a smaller scale movie, no pun intended. But it's really entertaining. Paul Rudd is just amazing in here, and I really liked Evangeline Lilly and Michael Douglas. I thought they were really great in this movie. I'm not really a Michael Douglas fan, but I love him in this movie and Ant-Man and the Wasp. And it's really entertaining movie and everything. So Ant-Man is number 20, and number 19 is Captain America: The First Avenger. This is a really, really good one. When I first heard about this movie, I was excited for it, and then they cast Chris Evans, who's an actor I've never been a huge fan of, especially at the time when they announced it. I was really, really mad when they announced it. I almost didn't see this movie because of not liking Chris Evans and stuff. I hated him in the Fantastic Four movies. I know a lot of people liked him in those, but he got on my nerves really bad in those movies, and I didn't really like him in the other few movies I had seen, which honestly haven't been very many. The only other really notable movie I remember is Not Another Teen Movie, which he was okay in that movie, but at that time I just was not really a fan of him, and the thought of him being in another Marvel movie just really annoyed me and everything. But he did this movie and totally redeemed himself, because I thought he was really good as Captain America, and he was perfect casting, and I'll admit when I was wrong and everything. He was really great in this role, and I love the World War II setting and stuff. It kind of gives it just something a little bit different for the MCU, and it has some really good moments. I think Red Skull was a pretty decent villain, although he's kind of one note like most of the MCU villains before Phase 3 started. Most of the villains are kind of one note, but he was still decent enough. Hugo Weaving did a really good job playing him, and I I enjoy Captain America the First Avenger. It's not one of my most favorites, but it's still really good. So it's number 19. And number 18 is Thor. I remember when this movie came out, I almost went to see it in the theater, and I really regret not going because I absolutely love this movie. It really surprised me on how much I enjoyed it. Really fun fish out of water story. Of course, this is the one where we get introduced to Thor and Loki, who are two of my favorite characters from the MCU and everything. And I know this one isn't as funny and stuff as like Thor Ragnarok and stuff, but it did still have some funny moments, especially when he drinks the coffee and he throws the cup on the ground and says another. I love that scene. It always cracks me up. And it is a fun movie. So Thor is number 18. And number 17 is Thor the Dark World. This one is probably a controversial take because I'm one of the very few people that actually really like this one quite a bit. Every once in a while in my Facebook groups I'll see people defend this movie, but most people I know absolutely hate this movie, and I can get it. Like, Malekith is a really, really terrible villain, but I really enjoyed this movie. I like that we get to spend more time on Asgard in this movie than we do in the previous one, and Jane Foster getting to go to Asgard was kind of cool. And but the stuff with Thor and Loki is really the best thing about the movie. It's just a lot of fun watching them together, and I enjoyed this movie. It's definitely not one of the best MCU movies, though, and I can completely get why people would have it as their least favorite, but I always just find it entertaining and stuff, so it's number 17. And number 16 is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I really love this movie. It's really a good movie. It's a lot better than most people say it is. I know most people really complain about it and talk about how disappointing it is and everything because of how great the first one is, which I'm not gonna lie, I definitely love the first one a lot more, but I really feel like this one is a lot better than most people say it is, and really I could have it higher on this list, but the more and more I think about other ones, I like some other ones in this movie more, or I like a lot of the other ones more than this, but I still think it's a lot better than most people say it is. And I liked Ego. I thought he was a really good villain. Kurt Russell was great as him and everything. He is a little over the top, but I think that's part of what makes him so good and everything. And I love Baby Groot. He's just so adorable. I want to pinch his little cheekies. He's just such a cute little baby. And I just absolutely love Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. So it's number 16. And number 15 is Iron Man 2. The one that I would consider to be the most underrated MCU movie. I just absolutely love Iron Man 2. I think it's a really great movie. It does kind of juggle too many storylines, and I do wish we would have got more with Justin Hammer. He was a okay villain, and Sam Rockwell is one of my favorite actors, so I really wish we could have got a lot more with him and stuff, or them bring him back into the MCU. Maybe eventually they will, but aside from that, I really do enjoy this movie. I think it's really good movie. I love most of the storylines in here, and it does try to be like a sequel to Iron Man, setting up the Avengers, and has like a bunch of different storylines, and I get people don't like it, but I really enjoyed it. I think Whiplash is a decent villain. He's not one of my most favorites in the MCU, but like I've said, a lot of the villains in Phase 1 and 2 are really kind of one-note and forgettable, and Whiplash is kind of forgettable too, but I still think he worked good enough for this movie. And also I love that we finally get to see War Machine and stuff in this movie. Don Cheadle is a great replacement for Terrence Howard. Personally, I feel like he's way better than Terrence Howard, and not just as as this character. I think he's just a better actor in general. I know most people would say I'm crazy for that, but Terrence Howard isn't a bad actor or anything. He is a really good actor. I just think he was a lot better for the character and stuff, Don Cheadle. So, Iron Man 2 is number 15, and number 14 is Captain America the Winter Soldier. This is probably the most overhyped movie in the MCU. I know a lot of people make a big deal about it and say it's... A lot of people even say it's the best one, and I can get it somewhat. I think it is a really good movie. I love, like, the spy feel to it, and it does have some of the best action in the MCU, and the big twist with Bucky really took me by surprise when I saw it the first time. I know most people probably somewhat expected it or knew that it was going to be Bucky because of comics and stuff, but I'm not really that... I wasn't that familiar with the Winter Soldier storyline. I had read a few Captain America comic books as a kid, but I didn't know that much about it, so it really took me by surprise. But I will say, I do love some of the stuff about this movie. Like, this is probably one of the best performances of Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow. This one in End Game, I think, are her best performances as the character. And I love, like, the introduction to Sam Wilson. He's one of my favorite characters and everything. I can't wait to see Falcon and the Winter Soldier and stuff and see him as the main character. And I do enjoy this movie. I think it is really good. It's just somewhat a little bit overrated. I would say it's the only MCU movie that I would really say is that it's kind of overrated. But I really still enjoy it, though. Just because I think it's a little overrated doesn't mean that I think it's bad and everything. It wouldn't be this high if I thought it was. I just don't think it's one of the very best MCU movies like most people do. So, Captain America the Winter Soldier is number 14, and number 13 is Iron Man 3. This movie, when it first came out, I was like a lot of people. I was really disappointed with it, and it actually used to be towards the bottom of my ranking and stuff, but over the last few times I've rewatched it, it's really grown on me and everything. I think part of it is just Iron Man is really one of my favorite characters, and I actually probably would say he's my favorite MCU character, but I like this movie quite a bit. It really has a lot of fun moments, and the Mandarin twist at first really annoyed me and made me mad, like it did most people, but as it's gone on, I kind of just came to accept it, and watching Ben Kingsley and stuff, he's really funny in here, and I don't know why, but the humor and stuff just really hit me last time, and I thought it was absolutely hilarious, and we do get a lot of good stuff with Tony and Rhodey, and then the stuff with Tony and the kid was really good too, and there are a lot of things about it that I like. It isn't perfect. The main villain of the movie is pretty bad, but aside from that, I think that Iron Man 3 is an okay movie. It's better than a lot of people say it is. It's not super great, but it's definitely not super terrible either. So Iron Man 3 is number 13, and number 12 is WandaVision. This is a really, really good show on Disney Plus. It's only a one-season show, so and if you're a big fan of the MCU, I definitely would recommend it, because it's the opening for Phase 4, and it is pretty crazy. There's a lot of really crazy stuff that goes on, but it's a lot of fun, and there's like so many awesome nods and stuff to classic TV shows that I used to watch all the time with my grandparents as a kid, like Bewitched and Dick Van Dyke, and then it has references to Brady Bunch, which is one of my all-time favorite shows, and then there's also references to like Roseanne, Malcolm in the Middle, and Full House, which Elizabeth Olsen is the sister of the Olsen twins, so I thought that was kind of a funny nod to them and everything. It's just really fun show. I really enjoyed it quite a bit. I will say that the ending of the show did disappoint me a little bit. It's not bad or anything. It just wasn't what I expected and everything. But that being said, I still liked it. I'm glad that it subverted my expectations, because I don't get really upset like a lot of people do, because to me it kind of makes sense why they try to subvert your expectations, and I should have known that Marvel was going to do that, because they always do most of the time. Very rarely do the movies actually go the way I'm expecting, so but I think this is a really good show, and everything. So WandaVision is number 12, and number 11 is Thor Ragnarok. I just absolutely love this movie. It is a ton of fun and everything. It was a huge step up from the first two Thor movies, which I enjoyed both of those more than most people did and everything. But this movie just, it cracked me up and everything. When I saw the trailers, I was like, man, they're really going for the Guardians of the Galaxy vibe and stuff, but it didn't feel like it was trying to rip off Guardians of the Galaxy. It felt like its own thing, and it was crazy and campy and stuff like Thor comic books are. I've read a few Thor comics, and this really fit the tone of the character, and it was more like what you would expect, and it just is a lot of fun and everything. So Thor Ragnarok is number 11, and number 10 is Spider-Man Homecoming. This was one of the ones that I was like most highly anticipating and everything. I'd always wanted to see Spider-Man in the MCU, and we got the little introduction to him in Captain America Civil War, and thought he was great in there, and I was really hyped for this movie. I think it was actually my number one most anticipated movie of 2017, and when I saw it and everything, it took me a couple times to really figure out how much I liked it, because it was way different than I expected, and I knew it was going to be different from any other Spider-Man thing we had ever gotten. I've always been a huge fan of the Raimi trilogy, and I didn't really like the Amazing Spider-Man movie, so I was really glad they were rebooting it and stuff, and I think Tom Holland is perfect as a character for this version and everything, and he's just really likable, and he's funny, and fits the role really well, and I really enjoyed this movie. It's definitely one of the best movies in the MCU, and I really enjoy Michael Keaton as Vulture. I think he's a really great villain, and he's really, aside from Loki, he was like the first really great villain in the MCU. Besides Loki, before then, like I said, all the villains were pretty much one note up to this point, and it was really refreshing seeing a really good villain and everything, and I like how he's really relatable and stuff, and it's a really good movie. So Spider-Man Homecoming is number 10, and number 9 is Avengers Age of Ultron. This is another one that a lot of people absolutely hate, or they just don't like it. Everything. I think it's because it had to follow the Avengers, which was really hard to follow and everything, and it stuck right between that one and Infinity War, which is one of the most popular ones. So I can get why people don't like it as much. I mean, it's definitely not as good as those movies, but I do really enjoy this movie. I think it's really underrated, and it's one where we get introduced to Wanda and Vision, and I think that, and WandaVision also kind of actually makes this movie a little bit better. If you see the show, you'll kind of see why. Some of the stuff that it has references to that and everything, obviously, because this is where the characters come from. I thought that was cool and everything. And this is really entertaining movie. I don't really care for the stuff with Hulk and Black Widow, mainly because it got so much backlash that they just completely acted like it never happened and didn't go anywhere in any of the future movies. But besides that, I still think it's a good movie. It set up a lot of things that come later, and like big things that happen at the end of End Game, and like it shows the beginning of the conflict between Tony and Steve and everything. And I honestly think Ultron was a pretty good villain. He's not super great. He is pretty one note and stuff. Like I said, with most of the villains, always kind of expect that. But I still think he was a lot better than most people said he was, and everything. He was pretty intimidating, and I think if he they wouldn't have just made him a one and done villain, he could have been really good in other movies and stuff as a villain. I really wish we would have got to see him more. But yeah, so Avengers Age of Ultron is number 9, and number 8 is Black Panther. This was a movie that I did not expect to like near as much as I did, and I didn't think it was going to be terrible or anything, because I really liked Black Panther. I think Chadwick Boseman was an amazing actor, and he was really great as him in Captain America Civil War, and that movie had already got me pretty hyped for Black Panther, but I never expected to like it as much as I did. I thought it was just really, really entertaining, really great story, and great cast, especially Michael B. Jordan as Killmonger, one of the best villains, if not the best villain. And well, no, I can't say he's the best villain in the MCU. He's probably my third favorite after Thanos and Loki, but he's a really great villain, and Michael B. Jordan is perfect in there. As far as the acting goes for the villains, though, he's definitely top-notch acting, and he just gives such a great performance. He steals the show from the main character, and by the time the movie's over, he actually has the main character somewhat on his side. So he's a really, really great villain, and I just really enjoy this movie quite a bit. So Black Panther is number 8, and number 7 is Spider-Man Far From Home. I'm not gonna lie, after Avengers End Game came out, my excitement and stuff for this movie just kind of dropped. I kind of felt like End Game would have been a perfect ending to the MCU, and to an extent it was an ending for it because it's like the end of the Infinity Saga, but I just didn't really know what to expect with this movie, and I ended up really loving it. I think that this is Tom Holland's best performance as the character so far, and he's really becoming one of my favorite versions of Spider-Man. I've always said that I like Tobey Maguire more, but over time I'm not going to argue with people who say Tom Holland is their favorite, because I can completely get it. He's amazing as this character, and especially in this movie, he was really great in here. And that mid-credit scene, it was just absolutely crazy, and everything. I absolutely love that scene, and I can't wait to see what happens in Spider-Man No Way Home. It just is, it's just a really great movie. So Spider-Man Far From Home is number 7, and number 6 is Iron Man, the one that started the MCU, and I still think it's one of the best movies. It just is a really, really entertaining movie. I always enjoy it. Every time I watch it, I actually think I like it a little bit more every time, and I almost put it at number 5, but the more I think about it, I would have to put it at number 6 because of what number 5 is. But this is just a really, really great movie, really great kickoff to the MCU. It introduced me to Robert Downey Jr., which I guess technically wasn't my full introduction to him because I've seen him in other movies, but this is the one that really got my attention and made me a fan of him and stuff. I think the only other movies I had seen of his before this one was Gothica and the Shaggy Dog, which I know he's not in the Shaggy Dog a whole lot, and I don't remember Gothica very well. I haven't seen that movie in years, but this movie, he just was amazing in it. He's become one of my favorite actors since then, and just really, really great story. Jon Favreau did an excellent job directing it, and just really, really good movie. So Iron Man is number 6, and number 5 is Guardians of the Galaxy. This movie is just a blast from start to finish. I've always absolutely loved this movie, and it really took me by surprise when I watched it, because I never expected to like it as much as I did, and every time I rewatch it, I love it a little bit more, and there's always some joke or something that I miss every time I watch it, and then I find something new in it every time. It's just a really fun movie, and it's a blast from start to finish. A great cast, especially Chris Pratt. I think he's just absolutely perfect as Star-Lord, but all of the cast are perfect in their roles, and it's still easily one of the best movies in the MCU. So Guardians of the Galaxy is number 5, and number 4 is The Avengers. This movie could have sucked. It could have been one of the worst movies ever made and everything, and if it would have sucked and would have been bad, we probably wouldn't have had any more MCU movies. It would have probably been the end of the MCU. It had a lot of stuff riding on it, and it completely took me by surprise, and I think it took most people by surprise at how good it was. It was just really fun movie, very entertaining. The cast worked really great together, and it was epic seeing all these characters together for the first time, and just really enjoy this movie. So The Avengers is number 4, and number 3 is Captain America Civil War. This is just a really great movie, and it kind of somewhat feels like an Avengers movie because most of the Avengers are in here, with the exception of Hulk and Thor, and that's the only reason it's not called the Avengers. I think it was actually originally going to be Avengers Civil War, and they changed it and stuff, but I absolutely love this movie. It's a really great movie. It has a lot of really fun moments, especially the airport scene, one of the best scenes in the entire MCU. I probably would even have it as my second favorite fight scene in the MCU after the big battle at the end of End Game. It just is really fun scene and stuff. We get introduced to Spider-Man in that scene, and it's just really fun, and the story gets really emotional at times and stuff, and for a while after this movie I actually hated Captain America because of some of the stuff that goes on in this movie, and me and my maxi pad loving friend Troy are always fighting over whose side we're on and stuff. I'm always on Team Iron Man and stuff, and we're always posting stuff on Facebook, taking shots at each other because he's Team Captain America and stuff. And this movie's been out for almost 5 years, and we're still doing that and everything. Even though they've made up and stuff later, we still have that debate and everything. This movie just had a big impact. For some reason, this is one that really got my love for the MCU going. And I had already loved most of the movies in the franchise up to this point, but this one is the one where they started really feeling like epic events every time one would come out after this one. And I just absolutely love this movie. So Captain America Civil War is number 3, and number 2 is Avengers Infinity War. I just absolutely love this movie. It is a blast from start to finish. It has some of the best action in the franchise. Its pacing is really great. The movie's 2.5 hours long, and it goes by really fast. Every time I watch it, it feels like it's only lasted maybe an hour or so. It just goes by really fast, and there's so many great moments in this movie, especially the scene when Iron Man, Spider-Man, and Doctor Strange meet the Guardians of the Galaxy, and the "Where is Gamora" line and stuff always cracks me up every time. And just really fun to watch these characters interact for the first time that haven't ever been on screen together, and it just feels epic, and it's easily one of the best movies in the MCU, and it's barely number 2, because I could just put this at number 1 with my number 1, but I'm pretty sure y'all know what it is. If y'all have been keeping track, y'all would know. But coming in at number 1 is Avengers End Game. I've always said that I love like the quieter moments in the MCU where it's just the characters hanging out, and that's one of my favorite scenes in Age of Ultron is when they're just chilling out after they get the scepter and stuff, and they're each trying to lift Thor's hammer and stuff like that. I love that scene. It's one of my favorite scenes in the entire MCU, and this movie has a lot of that, like where they're just sitting around talking, and it doesn't have a lot of action and stuff until the third act, and when action finally gets there, it's like a huge 45-minute battle with a bunch of fan service and stuff, but it was a lot of fun. Some of the best stuff from the entire MCU. Everything leading up to this movie came together in this, and it really felt like a really good finale, and if they would have stopped it with this, it would have been a perfect ending. I just absolutely love Endgame. It's such a great movie. That Tony's sacrifice is one of the most emotional moments and everything. I had a feeling it was coming and stuff because he almost died in every one of them, and I knew Robert Downey Jr. had pretty much said this was his last one, so I expected him to die, but it still didn't expect it to hit me as hard as it did. It was really emotional, but it's just such a great movie, and seeing it in the theater opening night was one of the best movie theater experiences I've ever had. It just really great movie, and easily my number 1 favorite MCU movie. But anyway, let me know in the comments what your favorite MCU movie is. If you want, you could tell me your ranking and stuff, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and have a good day, everybody.